Watch as we transform this space to this.
Welcome back to the channel. This is my tropical style garden here in Leicestershire, UK. In today's video, we're going to show you my step-by-step guide on how to build a waterfall and a small pond. I'm going to go through all the details so you can follow along step by step and be confident by the end of the video knowing how to build your own small pond and waterfall.
The first step when building a pond is to select the location. I'll use my large pond project as an example for this. When selecting your location, there are a few key things to consider. Now, in an ideal world, we'd want somewhere with easy access to power and water. Of course, unless you are using solar equipment, just consider how you are going to be filling the pond. It's also important to consider overhead trees, as falling leaves can increase maintenance for your pond. When choosing your location, it is also important to think about how you want to see and interact with your pond. Putting it somewhere close to where you can see it easily will increase the enjoyment of your pond. Another consideration, of course, is what's under the ground. So this could be things like pipes and electric lines. It may be worth checking with your local council or community to see what is there before digging. In some cases, though, we cannot build in an ideal location, so we must kind of work with the area that we have. I will now show you where we are planning to build our pond and the next steps in the process. The initial first part we're going to do here is to get the size. It's very important once you've the location to then map out the size of pond you would like, and I would always suggest going bigger than you expect. In most cases, everyone does regret smaller ponds to bigger ponds, but with that said, you do have to work with the space you've got. Today here in this spot here, we've got an unused space, the garden that's very, very close off the house. I'll show you all the angles here. So sight lines are very important when thinking of placement for your pond. Now, when it comes to things like your waterfalls and where you're going to be viewing the pond from, perhaps out of a kitchen window, from a patio on the side. With that said, of course, you want to bear in mind location and everything for that. But first, we're going to lay out a hose to get a shape of the actual space that we've got. And then from that point, we can understand what size liner and things we want to buy. So I'll just show you that laid out now. So you can now see here we've got the rough shape of where we'd like to have the corners. Those can be adjusted and pulled out as we kind of start to dig, depending on where we want to put the shelves and various things. So as you can see up here, I'm including this higher rise bit. So I'm going to pull this all down so we can have the pond kind of go into here with your waterfall box sat somewhere up here. From the sight line, you may position it over here, but we'll start digging and let's get an idea of kind of where that goes. So now we've got our hosing in place to give us a rough idea of the pond. What we can do next is to measure our angles so we make sure we've got the right size for our liner. Now the next thing to bear in mind when choosing the liner is to bear in mind your depth. So typically we're going to go width plus depth times 2. So we're going to go down and over, up. So we need to account for that liner being there as well. Always order a bit of extra liner compared to the size. Again, the last thing we want to do is run out of liner while we're building. As you can see here on the excess sides, we've got a little bit extra, and of course this is going to account for our extra liner that we can tuck in and use as we go through the build. Just to show you that they're always worth measuring just before you do start to do any further plans on that side. The next step here is going to be to choose our kit. And as you can see in front of us, this is the kit I'm going to be using today for the pond build. But it's important when thinking about kit as to what kind of use you may have for your pond. If you are looking to fish, you might want to calculate having a bit more filtration, so you might want added filtration box. If it's just a simple wildlife pond, you may not need as much filtration or water movement. So it's just basing your pond kit off of the requirements that you have for your pond design and pond build. I typically have been using the Poposoap brand, very, very good quality kit. I'll just go through what kit I've gone for this pond here. You can just see here we've got our thick underliner. Now this is what is going to protect our liner. So this will go in before the pond. Now with this you want to go with quite a thick bit of material. And again, this comes supplied with the pond kit. The thicker the material, the more likelihood we're going to ensure the liner does not get any leaks or anything like that. Of course, we'll go through all that when it comes to the actual build and show you how we're doing that step by step, of course. Next to that here, we've got our 4,500 liter waterfall overflow box. As you can see, it comes with 10-foot of tubing. Now we have done a full unboxing review on the channel of this particular waterfall box from Poposoap. So certainly check that out if you're looking to find out how to set this up from start to finish. But of course, when it does come to setting this up, we will be doing that all on film for you. You can see here exactly how that goes. Next to that, we've got our 80-watt pump. Now this is going to connect to our waterfall overflow box and going to go into our pond, and this is going to be providing our sort of first level of filtration in the pond. Next, we've got our epdm liner. Now, there are a couple different types of liners that you can buy. So your epdm, you've got your PVC, and your HDPE. Now, the question I think most people will be thinking is, what kind of liner do I need for my pond? Now, with that said, it does come to the usage of your pond, but the epdm is going to be your thicker kind of rubber liner. This one has quite a good thickness, and once again, this is for protecting our pond from leaking. Now, when it comes to placing rocks on top of this liner, we're also going to use a little bit of underlay to protect it again on top of that as well. But as mentioned, something like a PVC liner is going to be a lot less thick. So if you're using something and it's not going to be a kind of heavily worn water feature, you're not putting a load of stone in the bottom and things like that, which could cause a leak, that may be the best option for you and generally works out a bit cheaper. The HDPE is more of like your industrial one, is a lot harder to mold. So for that, with that said, I would highly recommend the EDPM if you can go for it. Again, should ensure that your liner lasts as long as possible. And just off the back here, we've got our 40 watt, 660 gallon per hour filter box. Now what I will do is just show you what comes inside this box. So inside the box here, as you can see, if we remove the lid, we've got our instruction manual, which is great if you have not set these up before, step-by-step guide on that side as well. But I'll just show you what's inside here. We've got our black filter sponge, your coarse media, so this is going to catch up all the kind of larger bits of detritus in the pond, ensuring that we get nice, clean, clear water, which is going to be healthy for things like fish if you're doing that, or even if you're building a wildlife pond. You can see here inside we've got our ceramic donuts. Now these again are for the biological filtration, so we want the good bacteria to get into here and start taking out a lot of the toxins and things out of the water. You've got also the bio balls here, which provide another form of bacteria filtration. Underneath that, which is quite nice with this kit, we've also got a UV light built into it, which again does help for cleanliness of the water and killing sort of negative bacteria. We've got a few of the ceramic beads, which you can see here. Those go inside, and again, it's just another form of the bacterial filtration, which will go inside of this box, upside down on the two little clips provided here. We do get a nice long cable as well, provided with the pump. Now with the pump, you also get a various number of attachments. So we've got an extending one, which we can then lift and put something like a waterfall head on, which do come provided. You've got 3 in the box, as you can see here. One with our dome attachment, which is quite nice. You'll see this from our previous pumps as well. But you also have a diverter switch, which means that you can either run this directly to the fountain on top, or you could run this off to another direction, perhaps up to a different water feature if you did so choose to. And then you can also adjust the flow with this here, just to ensure that you've got the right flow going up to it. Now, the main thing with choosing this sort of kit for your ponds, it's always good to add as much filtration as possible. We want to be able to skin the top of the surface for any things that have fallen into the top and are on the water surface. We also want to clean from down at the bottom of the pond as well. So we're getting all levels of cleaning, once again ensuring we get nice crystal clear water and keep our fish healthy. Also, this should reduce the amount of maintenance we have to do on the pond as well. But what we will do is just take a look at the next step in this stage. So the next step here is going to be to start your digging. Now, typically I would start sort of in the center, work my way out. We can start to dig our deeper center spot. Now with this particular pond, we are going to be looking to keep fish in it. And so we're going to go down to around about the 30-inch depth mark in the very, very center. Now, of course, the whole pond doesn't have to be 30 inches, but as long as we make a nice sort of area, a deep spot, so that during the winter, the fish can remain in the pond and survive as well. I think what we're going to do is position our deep spot near where the waterfall is, and what this will do is just ensure good aeration for the fish continually throughout the year. But what I'll do is just show you the first stages of digging here. You can see here, a lot of this is sort of a gravel on top. What we're going to do is remove this gravel, pile it up on the side over here, just to ensure that when we go to reline the pond into a gravel bottom, not something you always want to do. It's a lot harder to clean with gravel, but as there are sort of pets and things that could go into it, we want to make sure that we're not going to burst the liner when we do that. Another thing to do with this is good to soak in the area with water a day or two before. What that will do is just soften up the ground here. As we're digging in, I think I'm going to start using a pickaxe to get a little bit deeper. Here now we have cleared the top area. Just as we come down, we've got a fairly level area. What we're going to do is continue digging this down, add some shelving in, but just wanted to show you kind of where we're at here. Center of the pond now is around about half a foot deep, so we're going to go quite a bit deeper on that side, but just now you can see we are starting to get a kind of shape and things in, and we'll just carry on and show you what that looks like. All right, so you can just see here, we've started to get this a bit further down. If I step into this now, you can see here, We're just about sort of knee level to where this water height would be. We're going to keep going down in here as we're going to make this our sort of deep spot here. I think what we're going to do is carry on a little bit of a deeper area into here. Once we get the main bit dug down to the depth we want, then we're going to start thinking about adding shelves around. Now the shelves are beneficial for wildlife as well, because if an animal falls into the pond, something like that, it gives it that little bit of room to get itself back out. The thing we want to avoid when we're digging a pond is just having straight down walls, going more than, say, 18 inches at a time. Typically I'd like to do drops in sort of 6 to 10 inches, even up to a foot. And again, it just means we're placing rocks inside. We've got sort of enough room. We don't need giant rocks just to cover that liner on the inside here. We've got down to the depth that we need to get to. Now, one thing certainly to point out, guys, when you are digging, you may notice things like the roots protruding here. Quite a bit of roots protruding. Now, what we do need to do before we think about even putting underlay down is to make sure all of those are trimmed fully back. We don't want anything sticking out that can poke into the liner. What I'm going to do here, now we've got our initial depth dug, what we're going to do is start adding our shelves along here. Now, what we'll do with the shelves is just to ensure that when we go to place a rock on it, it's not going to be leaning forward, so the rock might topple in. I always try to make them sort of level or lean back slightly. It just means we'll have a less chance of a rock falling down in. Now, when it does come to adding your shelves, typically I would sort of add a rough shelf all the way around the top to bring our level down slightly so we're not having as much of a drop. But then what we'll do is add a few lower shelves, again just adding a bit of different sort of topography in here. And again, with fish and things like that, they do find these little like nooks and crannies and things like that there. So what I'm going to do is start working on the shelves and just show you how that goes along. Following from that, as mentioned, we're going to take a look at adding that waterfall box in position just to get an idea of kind of how we want that to go there. So now we've got a little bit more of these shelves dug. If you just have a look down here, we've got a few different levels, a little bit hard to tell on camera. We've got sort of our top level here, next shelving down here, and then down to the bottom. As you can see, there's quite a bit of sort of loose dirt in there. That's generally from just pulling it down in. I find it easier to dig it out the hole of the bottom rather than trying to lift it from the top and stop it from going back down into the bottom. Our next job is to start thinking of placing the waterfall box, getting an idea where we want our pump to go as well. So let's just take a look at that. All right, so you can just see here, this is our Poposoap 1200 gallon per hour waterfall box kit. We haven't attached the hosing yet to it yet. We're just going to find the placement before we get this box all set up. Now this is your sort of biofalls or overflow box. What we're thinking of, something like this up here. We can get the waterfall box in somewhere here. What I'm finding is once we build our waterfall out, we should be sort of right into the pond here. Now what I plan to do with the waterfall box kit and any sort of pumps or filters or anything like that is to always try and keep the kit within the liner. That way we never have any sort of leaks or anything like that from the connection to the kit. The water just runs straight back into the pond, and you're not going to be losing water out over the out of the edges of the pond when you do this. What I'll do is take a quick look around and just kind of see if these angles are right, and we'll kind of get it positioned in. Now once again, rough positioning here. Once we do get it in the final spot, we're going to want to get out the level, make sure it is level with a slight dip forward, just so we can keep that momentum of the waterfall as well there. So pretty happy with this placement here. What we're going to then do is test how long the hose is to see where we can put this. Now the intake or the pump for this particular waterfall, trying to position it more as a surface pump. So it's going to be skimming the surface, pulling all the debris off the top of the water into a little cove, which then can be easily cleaned. The larger filter box with the UV kit that you've seen previous is going to go in the center of the pond, down to the bottom. And again, that's going to kind of pull our filtration down to the bottom as well as on the top as well. And as you can just see here now, we take you in. What we essentially got, waterfall box facing us directly onto the house, so kind of perfect sight lines on this one. As you can also see, we're running that hose all the way down to the other side of the pond. Reason being is you can run it sort of straight down underneath, but the idea is we want to get that water movement and keep the water kind of circulating. If we had it just at the bottom of the waterfall, for example, yes, it's easier to hide the pump and everything like that, but if this is your only method of filtration, you're going to have a lot of sort of stagnant water on the other end of the pond where it's not getting pulled to the pump. So just something to bear in mind when you are placing your pumps is to kind of the flow of the water in the pond itself. Now that we have the placement of the pump, what we're going to do is to dig that down, as we want the top of the lip to be sort of level where it's coming out. So it's got a little bit of a kind of seat that it sits in. It just makes it easier when we are backfilling this to bring the rock level up as well. You can see here we do have this embedded log here. Now what we're going to do to kind of manage some of this hill, now I mean a couple options you could do, I guess, is you could think to pull back the whole hill and kind of grade it up so you've got sort of steps and stepping stones around that, or kind of different rock levels for planting. But in this instance, as we've got sort of a existing kind of rock wall here, what we're actually going to do is use some scaffolding board, put up a nice kind of walling side there, and then what we can do with that is then attach plants and various things and kind of use that to our advantage. Now again, in this particular build, this is what kind of makes sense for this particular area, as we do have quite a bit of space that we want to use up here, and we don't want to lose too much of that by digging into it, further taking back the amount of room we've got on top up here. I believe the eventual plan could be to have an additional seating area on top, which once again, we can use all of this to look directly down into the waterfall area and pond. But again, as you can see here, the option of leaving it in and building a wall up off it is going to make more sense for this particular scenario. So that's why you can see that still there. But what we're going to do, as mentioned, is to dig this waterfall box down, give it a good seat in there, get it leveled, and then we can start thinking about things like underlay. So just in here now, you can see we've started to dig our channel for where the waterfall section is going to go. So if I come to the side, it might be a bit more clear. You can just see it's kind of chopped out. We've got a couple steps going up. What we're going to do is clean up those steps. We add another 2 steps or 1 in there, and then basically think to start positioning things, getting all tidied up. What we then need to do is go around, trim off all the roots as mentioned before we do anything other than underlay. As well as that, one sort of tip I always use is to take off your gloves once you've got it as clean as possible. Take off your gloves and run your hands over it with no gloves on. In some cases you can find little sharp things sticking out that wouldn't be apparent with a glove on or something like that. Something I typically do with most of my builds, and so far so good. We haven't had any sort of punctures coming from underneath or anything like that. So just one kind of tip there that I've certainly learned over the years of building ponds, definitely to help you kind of having to do work twice, lifting the line or doing anything like that if you discover something's poking through. What we've also done is to kind of pull this edge a little further out, as we'd like to not really allow anything to fall back in the pond while we're doing the additional decorations around the side once we've got the liner, waterfall, and all the kit in there. But what I'm going to do, as mentioned, kind of go around, tidy up some of the rest of this, show you what it looks like all tidied up just before we get the underlay in and start getting the thoughts of getting liner and the rest of the kit in as well. Alright, so you can just see here now, got all the ledges sort of done out. We're just going to do our final sort of tidy up and lay the underliner underneath here, and then we can think about getting the liner in and start finally working on the waterfalls and rocking in. We'll just show you quickly what that looks like, getting the liner in and underlay. So just to show you here, this is the 11-foot by 11-foot underliner that came with it. We're going for a roughly sort of 6x6, 7x6 sort of pond here. Really kind of fit the space. We thought we were going to be quite a bit bigger, but once we've got digging and sizing, the actual space we really needed was about that. So what we've done here, gone down to just over, so about 30 inches deep to the level. We've also got the shelves coming down about 18 inches down. Then you've also got the waterfall area going in the back here. You can just see, fleece wise though, we've got a great coverage on it. This is our very thick sort of fleece, the kind of ones you want to use, as you saw when we were taking a look at the kit earlier. But next we're just going to get the liner in over the top of this fleece. This is your protective layer underneath your pond to stop any punctures. One sort of tip before you put down the liner, just to ensure that you don't have any sort of stones that got into the underlay. Of course, that's going to get in between the protection of the underlay and the liner. So just be very careful once you get the underlay in. We're not going to get any other stones and things in there. Now, another thing is, when you are pulling out the liner and underlay, it's best not to kind of drag it across it. If you can't open, fold out, start from the middle and try and pull out to the sides. It just ensures that you're not pulling anything down into the pond as well. As you can see from the fun we had there trying to wrestle it in, it's easier to just get it off camera. We had a lot of this sort of plastic sheeting on the liner, which had to be removed as well. So rather than kind of showing you all that malarkey. Just here though, you can see sort of waterfall box in its place, plenty of additional liner here. What we're going to now start doing is filling with water, and what the water will do is help us to pull out all of the creases and things like that, really just to kind of maximize the amount of kind of clean space we get rather than having loads of wrinkles everywhere. So we'll just show you that. As we are filling, you can see our pump is over in the area that we proposed as our sort of skimmer bay. What we're doing at the moment is to do sort of a wet test. With such a small pond, this is something that you can do. If you were looking at, a much larger pond, we're talking, many meters by many meters, I would advise probably going against this route, as again, taking time to fill and drain can take quite a while just to test. In that case, you might want to kind of get all your rocking in and things like that. But with this particular project, what we're doing is to wet test it here. We're going to use the water weight to pull out as many creases as we can in the liner. We're also going to test out the kind of waterfall and flow. And once again, we're going to go back with this overlay, another bit of underliner, which is going to protect any stones that we build into it. Now this one, as mentioned in the beginning, is going to be a full gravel bottom, sort of pretty much gravel and stone all the way throughout, so you won't see any of the liner in here. And again, this is sort of a pet-friendly pond that we're building here. If you wanted to, say for example, you're just building a wildlife pond, you don't have any waterfalls or anything like that, and you're not concerned about putting rock in, I would say you're nearly done now. What you can then do is to get it to the final level. Once again, just check that you don't have any leaks or anything, leave it for an hour or two, and then what you can slowly do is start to go around tucking in your liner, decorating the edges, and pretty much be done from there. And what we're doing is adding the waterfall box here because this is our biofalls. This is going to provide us with the filtration as well as sort of interest in the pond as well. But with that said, going to keep filling. We'll show you that when it is finally full, just so we can see exact water levels. Once again, we're still kind of in the testing phases here. If we do need to lift a edge up, what we can simply do is just lift the liner and underlay and push a bit of dirt back in to lift that edge up as we go. So again, this is our kind of fine adjustment stage as we take a look at it here. And just as we're getting a bit more full, with the waterfall box here itself, we have done a full unboxing and review of this Poposoap 4,500 liter per hour filter box and pump. I'll put a link on screen for you to check out if that's of interest to you. Put it in the description as well if you're looking to see how we set up that box. Very, very simple though. Comes with the bulkhead supplied. Great bit of kit. I've used these on quite a few ponds now. One of my preferred sort of bio waterfall boxes. Everything in the box as well. Poposoap really kind of, I think, understood the doing, and these are quite budget friendly pumps as well. Again, I will put links in the description below for all of the kit we're using today if you're interested in checking that out as well. So we've now done the wet test for 24 hours, absolutely fine as expected, no leaks or anything to be concerned about. Our next step now, we've drained it down just below this pump line as we're going to work on the waterfall section just up here and get that all in, and I'll show you how we use expanding foam to build the waterfall. Right guys, so you can just see here, waterfall box in. Our next goal is going to be to set the framing stones. So we're putting stones on either side of our waterfall. Now we can build the initial waterfall underneath. What we're going to then do is stack it up to get the height up to here, and then we're going to foam in the back to ensure the water comes cleanly over the front and not kind of seeping back into the waterfall section as well. We are just rough wet testing a couple stones here. We've got 2 framing rocks on the side, and at the moment just checking out the flow of these stones. Got a bit of a bit of a sheet kind of waterfall there, and it's coming off down here. I think we're going to try and angle some stones this way to kind of pull it more to the center and just keep some of that kind of unique flow on there. We'll just kind of show you, but once we get the rocks in, I'll show you the kind of foaming process and kind of what it looks like as well. We've got kind of the majority of the rock that we're going to start foaming in here. What we'll do is get this foamed in and kind of do the initial set and testing on this one. Once again, using the waterfall foam as it's very easy to work with, and we should be able to test this, within the next 45 minutes to an hour and make sure we got the right flow there. One kind of tip you can just see underneath here. If you take a look, we still got a little gap underneath the waterfall box. What we'll do with that is take a little bit of excess underlay, and we'll just roll that underneath and then foam that in there as well. Use the underlay as well, so we don't have to use as much foam. So any deep pockets, you can tuck a lot of underlay that's offcuts in there, gravel, things like that, and foam over the top. Just saves you from having to use too much foam on that side. But what we'll do is just get that set up. You can just see the first initial foams here. Just to show you up close now, as you can see, fill this bit with a little bit of gravel, again trying to minimize the amount of foam we need. And what we're going to do is just fill in some of these little pockets just to stop the water from running sort of down the rocks, behind the rocks, and hopefully this should sort of fix that problem there, give us a bit more flow over the front of the waterfalls, which you'll see shortly here. What we're simply doing with it, taking our foam, and as you can see, gently filling those gaps in here, and then what we'll do is use a little bit of the underlay just to cover that so you don't see any of the foam in there as well for you. We'll just get that all in and just show you exactly what that looks like. Got the expanding foam in now. It will look a bit of a mess at this point when you are doing it. Not to worry though, what we're going to do is take a few bits of the offcut of underlay and to trim that and push it in there at about the sort of 45 minutes to an hour mark. Once it's kind of finger malleable, you want it to go off for a good hour first before we start messing with it. Then we can start tucking that in. Now you may see, got an old towel here. Another thing I do whenever I'm working inside of a pond is to put something down to protect my feet, so any rocks or small things that might have come in won't get pushed into the liner there. But what I'll do is just show you the next stage when we are pressing in the underlay to hide the white foam there. So just right here, got a little bit of the underlay. What we're going to do is just simply press it in up underneath, just like that. And again, just hiding that little area in there from the white. And again, what we can do then is go back with a little bit more decoration once that's fully set. But for now, you can just see, just tucking those in, just hides that little bit of the white there. What we'll do is kind of get these bits that you can see here and just try and get them all kind of tucked away. The rest will get kind of trimmed off as well. We've roughly fixed that in. And what we'll do is just kind of show you that turned on for the first time as well. First test, I'll try and speak a bit loud as it's really boosted the sound from the original box here. But as you can see, just as an initial test, you know, getting a lovely little flow out the side of that. Really looking quite good on that. Quite happy with that. Of course, we've got a lot to do to go around the pond and finish gravel, stones, everything else. But really just to give you an update, kind of what that looks like within an hour and a bit after foaming. We've got our stones. First, a lot of stones have come in, and what we're going to do is to go around, place them in the pond. Now, one kind of key tip is, so you don't want to place all big stones next to big stones, little stones next to little stones. I mean, of course, it's completely up to you, but what we are trying to do is make it look as natural as possible. And if you think kind of streams that you might see in nature, you're going to have all varying sizes of stones placed in various different ways where the water is kind of naturally eating out that kind of path to make it a stream or a river. So what we're going to do is just kind of mimic that. So placement of stones, always good to lay them out on a staging area so you can see every stone that you've got to work with, and that way we can look at different angles and what's going to look best when it goes in. But just as we do that now, we're just going to get first initial stones in and show you what that looks like in the pond here. So just briefly to show you here, you may have seen through the time lapse, again slightly hard to maybe get the angle, but what we've done so far, we've used the rocks that we've got. You can see off the back here, kind of tuck the liner back in, kind of covering that waterfall box as much as possible. Of course, we've still got a little bit of liner showing here. Need quite a few more loads of stone to really kind of get this all sort of completed here. But what we're doing is, you can see on like the edge here, we're trying to just disguise the liner underneath and just kind of make it marry straight into the you know, into the natural surroundings. Again, trying to make little pockets and areas that fish, and making some more interest in there as well. What we're going to do is get a bit more gravel done, and then we'll show you when we get the next couple loads of rocks in, and hopefully should be near on finishing. Alright guys, so you can just see here now a bit more progress on this. As you can see on the back here, we have got this scaffolding board, which is doing the job of sort of retaining the wall back there, carrying that around here, again adding just a little something different on this one. Still got a little bit of work to do on the waterfall. We've got some more stones, quite a few more coming in, and again we're going to be tucking up the inside here, but really starting to come together now. You can see sort of edgings and corners. Taking a look in here, you know, just the finishing little touches that do help. Of course, you've got pea gravel and a few other bits, but we're really starting to come towards, you know, the end of getting this all in here. Slight decorations as well, but as you can see, really starting to come along nicely here. We'll just get this all kind of married up, last few bits in, and just show you the final product. So as you can see now, we've got this all sort of tucked in, using a lot of natural mosses here, as it does kind of fit the area, you know, that we live in, so it kind of makes it look a little bit more natural. But as you can see, coming down to the water's edge now, lovely little waterfall and flow. Got the filter box pumping out from there. You can also see here the waterfall with a nice flow going in. Again, nice sound as well. As we quickly look this way,
You can just see on some of our edges. Now the water has gone a little bit green for the meantime, but this has been spread over quite a few days, this project, so the water is adjusting to its natural levels. Just as we take a look at the corners and edging, as you can see, nicely tucked in. We've got a little fern decoration there. Probably going to go back with some more at some point, but for now, really, you know, this is kind of the look we were going for, really just something a bit rustic, but also, you know, as natural as we could possibly look on that one. But with that said, of course, if you haven't checked out friends of the channel, they'll be in the comment section below. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. Join our amazing community. And of course, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.